spite of what the graduation speakers say every spring, our town's pretty average. And that goes for our senior class, too. Out of this class of 40, just because it is average, 2 of these boys and girls will spend some part of their lives in a mental institution. My job is to try to keep the people around here healthy, and most of them are. Of course, nobody's health is ever perfect. Jim Anderson has a bad ear. That doesn't keep him from playing on the football team. County champions last year, too. Frank White is nearsighted, but his glasses take care of that. Dorothy Westerly has a tooth that needs fixing, but she's in good health, I'd say. Mighty good health. They've all learned habits of good living that have helped them stay physically healthy. Habits of cleanliness, good diet, exercise, and rest. But there's another side to good health, and that's good mental health. Comes naturally to most people. Parents who are mentally healthy bring up their children to be mentally healthy, too. Take Tommy Clark there. He learned the first rule for good mental health a long time ago, about not bottling up his emotions. Now, when he works up a head of steam, he puts it to work in a useful way, instead of holding it inside. When you try to do that, it's bound to come out in some unpleasant way. Tommy learned that some years back, just after his younger brother was born.
Come on, Jimmy. Have some. Come on. Tommy, eat your meat. You haven't eaten a bite all day. I declare I don't know what's got into you.
You heard your mother, Thomas. Now do as she says.
Finally, his folks sent him to see me. There wasn't anything physically wrong with him that I could find, so I began to talk with him. If you've got something on your mind, Tommy, why don't you talk about it?
Well,
We all have our problems, Tommy.
But I can talk about it.
Of course you can. And you know something? The more you talk about your problems, the easier they are to solve. It's bottling things up inside that's bad. When you feel something, if you're mad or afraid or worried, you've got to let it out or it'll come out some other way. Like you losing weight and not sleeping. Now, what is it, son?
Gosh, Dr. Martinson, this may sound kind of funny to you.
No, it won't.
I don't think my folks want me anymore. They're planning to get rid of me.
What makes you think that, son?
I heard them say so one night. They thought I was asleep. Ever since Jimmy was born,
Well, it wasn't easy to prove to Tommy that he was wrong. As in so many cases like this, his parents were partly to blame. The new baby was taking more of their attention than they realized. I got a chance to talk to Tommy's mother about it, and it turned out that they'd been talking about sending Tommy to camp for the summer, and he misunderstood them. Well, we finally got it straightened out. But it taught Tommy a lesson that many people don't learn so quickly, about not bottling up his emotion. He learned that it could be easy to talk to his folks and that he didn't have to hide his love for them.
Good night, Mom.
Good night, Tommy.
Well, that is quite a few years ago. Tom's graduating today. That #1 rule for good mental health, don't bottle up your emotions, has helped him through many a tough spot. Of course, we're talking about some of the simple rules for staying in good mental health. And that brings us to the second rule, which is respecting yourself. Sounds easy, doesn't it? But look what happened to Bruce Matthews. He went out for the tennis team a couple of years ago, and while he had a lot to learn, he had the makings of a fine player. But he wasn't satisfied with slow, steady improvement. Oh, he expected himself to be perfect right from the start. Missing a point would make him boil over at himself. Well, the coach finally caught on to what Bruce was doing to himself with his demand for perfection.
Sure, I think it's fine to keep wanting to improve. I understand that, but I think you're going at it the wrong way.
How do you mean?
Well, did you ever stop to think how good your game really is?
Yeah. After missing that last point?
That's just what I'm getting at. You're worrying too much about the game and you don't enjoy it.
But, gee, Coach, I know I can do better.
Sure you can. But the point is you shouldn't let yourself get mad every time you miss a point. Why, even the world's champion can't make every point. You can't be perfect. You've got to learn to get more pleasure out of this game. So take yourself as you are, and instead of expecting yourself to be perfect.
It took a while for Bruce to get what the coach was driving at. But little by little, without letting up one bit on trying to improve his game, he learned to enjoy his skill rather than fret over his occasional misses. Yes, he's learning that second important habit for keeping in good health. Good mental health, I mean. The habit of feeling right about himself. Along with that goes a third important habit. Feeling right about other people, too. That means getting along with others, having fun with them, being part of the group. There's no room for bashfulness in good mental health. To look at Otto Markel there, you'd never guess what he was like a year ago. For some reason or other, he was convinced that people just didn't like him much. He never tried to make friends or to be one of the bunch. It was Miss Reinert who came to Otto's rescue.
I think you'd enjoy getting into one of the school clubs.
I don't know. I really don't have any time.
I hear they're planning to organize a camera club. You could help with that.
I'm not very good with my camera. I don't think they'd want me in the club.
Of course they would. The more the better when you're organizing a club.
Gosh, Miss Reinert.
You're certainly doing well in chemistry, and that's important in photography.
I don't know. Chemistry's different from photography.
I think you'll find they'd welcome a good chemist like you in a camera club. But you'll have to do one thing.
What's that?
Offer to help. Do all you can to help get the club organized. Get some other students to join.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
Of course you can. And you'll find that they'll like you as much as you like them.
I knew about Otto's problem because his parents had come to see me about the same thing. Of course, they had to share the responsibility for Otto's bashfulness.
What do you mean, George? I don't quite get what you're driving at.
No? Well, I'll tell you, Art. I've been watching you with that kid a long time. You're demanding too much from him. Nobody can be perfect, so don't ride him so hard. When he does something you don't like, remember he's a person in his own right. His way may be just as good as your way.
I do think you've been hard on him at times, Arthur.
Oh, but he doesn't toe the line the way he should. He has advantages I never had when I was a boy. He has an opportunity to amount to something.
But let him do it his own way. You've got him feeling now he isn't as good as the next fella. That's why he hesitates to make friends. In Otto's case, as in many others I've known, talking with the parents was important in helping to get things straightened out. He's learning the third basic rule for good mental health. Feeling right about other people. That means that in any normal group of people, there is a feeling of give and take. There's an interest in the group as a whole. There's no distrust or dislike of others just because they happen to be different. Well, there's one more rule for good mental health. And I see that Nancy's finally learned it well enough to get her diploma. That's the habit of doing something about a problem as soon as it comes up.
Class dismissed. Gosh, what I don't know about the Civil War period. I haven't cracked a page in 2 weeks. I'm going to have to dig into this one, too. Come on over to my house tonight. Let's study it together. Oh, I just dread getting into it. Let's put it off till tomorrow. Well, all right.
Tomorrow never came for Nancy. That quiz day found her completely unprepared. But Barbara had faced up to that quiz the day it was announced.
Oh, Jay, I've been so worried about this exam, I just can't sleep. Oh, I hope I pass. There's no point in worrying about it now.
Nancy not only had double trouble with that quiz, she had triple trouble. Before, during, and after. If she'd got busy just as soon as it was announced, instead of just worrying about it, it would have been a lot easier for her. Yes, the people around here are learning some of the basic rules for staying in good mental health. First rule is, don't bottle up your emotions like love, fear, anger. Express them naturally. Of course, emotions like anger have to be expressed with consideration for others. Above all, don't carry a grudge. Get it off your chest. The second rule is to respect your own abilities. Always try to improve, but remember that you're human. The third rule is to respect others. Treat them as friends. And finally, when a problem shows up, face it at once, calmly, reasonably, and honestly. And remember that one of the best rules for good mental health is talking out your troubles and problems with someone whose opinion you respect. Your parents, your family doctor, your school teacher or advisor. Your clergyman may be the right person to talk to on many things. Whoever it may be, talking is one of the best tonics there is for good mental health. Another good tonic is an interesting hobby. Gives you a way to relax, a chance to accomplish something you can be proud of. Well, those are some of the rules for staying in good mental health. Of course, they're just the ABCs of a subject big enough to fill whole libraries. But as more and more folks get to know these ABCs and follow them, they're going to be able to look at a group like this someday and feel that they have a greater chance than ever for the kind of happy, useful life which will make our world a better place to live in.
For some reason that Barbara couldn't understand, she never had many friends. Perhaps it would be different for Barbara now. A new town and a new house. Barbara hoped that she would find some new friends. This is too good to be true. A girl. Just her age, too. Now Barbara tried to make friends. She was not one bit shy about walking right up to introduce herself. Her neighbor's name was Jane, and she, too, was glad to have a friend that lived right next door. Of course, Barbara's mother was happy to see that she was making friends right away. She wanted Barbara to feel at home here. But after a while, with so much to be done, well, Barbara was old enough to do her share. There would be time for play later.
Barbara?
In a minute.
Barbara!
Oh, I'm coming.
Now, maybe we can see, even if Barbara can't, the reason why she has never been popular with others. Bad manners. Yes, Barbara was rude to her mother. A few days later, Jane did a very thoughtful thing for her new neighbor. She asked Barbara to go with her to a downtown movie. They would ride the bus all by themselves. But something happened at the bus stop. Barbara pushed past those two ladies without even an apology. Didn't she know better? Jane asked herself. Does she act that way all the time? Jane was surprised at Barbara's bad manners, but no one likes to find fault with others, so Jane tried to excuse Barbara since she was new and excited. But it wouldn't work. Other passengers were annoyed. She was too noisy, too loud. And Jane was embarrassed. Especially when the bus driver frowned at both of them. He had always been so friendly to Jane, and she didn't like the feeling that he held her partly to blame for Barbara's bad manners. Jane no longer merely wondered about Barbara, now she knew. Later, in the theater, Barbara was even worse. Running in the aisles is disturbing and dangerous. Jane had another bad surprise. Her guest kept talking all through the picture, ruining it for Jane. And other people, too. Too bad, Jane. It's hardly fair when you try to be nice, and a girl with bad manners spoils it. After the show, it was always a treat to stop for a soda before going home. Today with Barbara, it was a different story. It hadn't taken very long to lose a friend. Just one afternoon of bad manners. The next time Barbara wanted to play with Jane, something seemed to be wrong. Jane was polite and listened to Barbara, but she didn't seem friendly, and she wouldn't come out to play. Barbara was hurt and bewildered. She couldn't understand why Jane had suddenly changed so. And then, through an open window, Barbara overheard something that explained everything.
But after all, Jane, just one time doesn't mean she's rude.
She is, Mother. She pushes people and yells at everyone and runs around like a ninny. I just don't like her, Mother.
All right, dear, I'm not insisting. It's just that she looks like a nice little girl. I suppose she just doesn't understand how important it is to have good manners in public.
There it is, Barbara. The reason that you've never been able to keep your friends. Maybe the truth hurts. But it's lucky you found out, Barbara. Why? Because for all your bad manners, you are an intelligent girl. Smart enough to do something about it. Where to start? Well, books are a source of information on good manners. First of all, you have to find out what are good manners. You should know why they are important. Good manners show our consideration for the feelings of other people. We develop good manners by following certain rules. As we use them, they become a part of us, a part of our personality. Let's look at some of the rules of good manners that you need to use to get along with others. Good manners on the street are very important. The sidewalks are for your convenience and for other people too. Make it a rule to share the sidewalk. Being quiet on streets is another way to behave properly, especially if you know that sick people might be disturbed. Where small babies are taking their naps, or men in the neighborhood who work at night and sleep during the day. Throwing paper or anything else in the street is bad manners. All of us should do our best to keep the city clean. Yes, Barbara, knowing the rules of good manners is important. Let's make a list of good manners in public. In public places of entertainment, your good manners help others to enjoy themselves. At a movie, for example, try not to disturb others when you enter. Sit quietly and don't whisper or talk back to the picture, even if you think of something funny. Above all, remember the other people who want to have a good time too. Yes, Barbara, you'll find good manners apply everywhere. At the soda fountain, be sure to wait your turn. In a store, don't touch merchandise unless you're thinking of buying it. After all, it could get broken or soiled. The grocery store is a good place to be courteous. It never hurts to think of the other person. Another place to be polite, elevators. Elevators require especially good manners. Let others off before you get on, and then, of course, ladies first. Give the operator the number of your floor and move to the back so others can get on. Stand quietly in the elevator and be ready to move aside to let other passengers out when they reach their floor. There, that does it. At least, that's a start. Just a few of the good manners that you need to get along with other people. Let's see now, Barbara. Share the sidewalk. Be quiet and orderly. Don't litter the streets. Fine. Those are good rules of behavior. Bus manners. Don't crowd ahead of others. Talk quietly. Stay in your seat. Good. And at the theater, don't run. Don't push past people. And don't talk or whisper. How about stores and shops? I see. Wait your turn. Don't handle merchandise. Think of others. In public elevators, let people off before you get on. Ladies first. Give your floor promptly. Make room for others. Don't chatter or squirm. Step aside to let others out. Very good indeed, Barbara. You're off to a good start, and if you try, you're on your way to a happier life. You can find other ways to add to your list of good manners by asking questions when you're not sure. Your parents will tell you. You learn by watching the good manners of others. Your teacher will help you too. And your friends. Yes, Barbara, if you correct your past mistakes, you will find that good manners do open the door to friendship. People will help you in every way they can when they know you want to have good manners. People will like you and respect you for your good manners. What's more, you'll like yourself and the way you act a little better day after day.
Did you ever stop to think how much time you spend in school? Ever stop to think about the use you make of your time? What are you doing in school? Do you just go, get passing grades? Or do you make this time really count for something? Look at the students in this science lab. How are they using their time? What about Carl? He's finished in the mechanics experiment that was assigned. He still has 15 minutes until the bell. Nothing to do, time to waste, finished ahead of everyone else. Or so he thinks. Anyway, he's finished ahead of Ellen. She seems to be having trouble. Carl would like to help, but she's looking for someone else. Why? Why does she go over to ask Andy when Carl is right at the same table? Let's see what her question is. She can't measure the distances because the beam keeps slipping. Maybe it's just as well she didn't ask Carl. He doesn't seem to know himself. But Andy does. Tightening the supporting string and lowering the whole apparatus will make it work better. How about that? Andy has a way of knowing extra things. Ellen knew that. She had a pretty... Is he smarter than Carl? Does he study more at home? Let's keep an eye on Andy and see just what he does that's different. Well, for one thing, that experiment is different from the one assigned for today. Why is that? Oh, that's why. Andy has finished the regular assignment, and he's gone on to do an extra one in the time remaining before the bell. He's studying more than just what is required, using the time that Carl figured was going to waste. Maybe Carl wasn't the first to finish after all. Maybe he could get more out of his time in school. Now comes a decision. He'll make a list of ways he can learn from other people how to get more out of school. The first way is Andy's way. Make use of your time. Not necessarily put in more time. Just use it right. After all, it's up to you to make something of your school time or waste it. There's another thing Andy has done that's a tip for Carl and all of us. Figuring out what caused that beam to slide and tilt is using your head to overcome obstacles and so gain extra value from your work. The way to get more out of your time in school is to be resourceful. Use what you have in doing what you have to do. Take stock of your time in school. You'll get more out of class time by volunteering to recite, entering into discussions, taking an active part. You'll get more out of study time by learning how to improve your reading and how to improve your study habits so as to get more work done in the same amount of time. You'll get more out of your lunch time if you use it to make friends and plan activities. A chance to work on an exhibit like this is a chance to be resourceful. Every day brings new opportunities to make better use of your time by being resourceful if you train yourself to look for those opportunities. Now Carl is looking for new ideas for getting more out of school. How about Peggy? She seems to enjoy all her classes and get a lot out of them too. But why is she using a microscope? What does that have to do with today's science experiment? Let's figure it out. That looks like a thread she has there. And look at that book, Textile Fibers. Of course, she's finished her science assignment too, and she seems to be doing a little extra work in home economics. She wants to see for herself the actual difference between woolen and worsted yarns. When you have a chance to do something extra to learn, don't let the opportunity slip by. Let's make a note about that. How about investigate opportunities? Look for chances to learn more than just enough to get by. For instance, next time you have a paper to write, see if you can't choose a subject you really want to know more about. Go out and investigate first-hand information. In almost any book you study, you'll find a bibliography which will lead you to further investigation of the subject, to new opportunities to make better use of your school time. Time. Say, maybe that's why Peggy is putting away the microscope. And Andy is ready to clean up too. So Carl decides that he'd better rush to get everything off the table and into the cabinet. Do you ever put things away like this? Is this really saving time? But wait, that chart of lab equipment. Have to check that. If things are organized neatly, it will be easier to check the list to see if anything is missing. Where's that 200-gram weight? Yes, it's easy to see that rules help you and help other people too. When everyone puts things away and checks them off, then no one loses time looking for things next period. Rules about cleaning up and other things help everyone to get along better together and to make the most of school. Know the rules and follow them. Actually, these are only a few of the ways to do more than just get by. What about student activities? Have you investigated the possibilities? Perhaps you'd enjoy wrangling around a round table or working on school publications. School clubs offer opportunities to exchange ideas and make friends. And so do sports, whether you make the school team or just have fun. Put your mind to it. You'll discover many ways to get more out of school. Think back to the way Andy makes use of his time. Think of ways of being resourceful and ways to investigate opportunities. You'll find that rules help you as well as the whole school. And by keeping your eyes and ears open, you'll find, as Carl has, that there are many ways to get more out of school.
This is the story of a boy named Tommy, about the things his mother and father do for him. This is Tommy's room, and he's thinking about his room. Can you guess what he's thinking? Look how neatly all of Tommy's clothes are hung in the closet. Yes, that's what Tommy's thinking about, how neat and straight his whole room is. Tommy's thinking hard, because he hasn't done a thing to his room since he left for school this morning. And when he left, the room didn't look like this at all, with toys on the shelves, bed made, clothes put away. No, this morning it looked like this. Clothes scattered about, bed not made, toys on the floor. Yes, when Tommy went to school this morning, he left his room a mess. But now, everything is neat and straight. Now, how do you suppose that happens? And that's not all. Yesterday, Tommy tore the sleeve of his favorite cowboy shirt, and now it's mended as good as new. And this jacket had a button off. Now there's a new button. And you know, things of that sort don't happen just in Tommy's room. They happen all over the house. After breakfast this morning, the kitchen looked like this. Then, do you know what happened while Tommy was in school? Yes, the table was cleared, the dishes were washed and put away, and the whole kitchen was cleaned up. The same thing happens with the dirty clothes. They get washed and ironed and put away just like magic. And the groceries that come from the stores. Well, see that chicken? Here's the way it looks when Tommy sits down to supper. Things certainly do happen while Tommy's in school. Now what does Tommy see? Where's he going? Oh, here's Tommy's father, home from work. And here comes Mother to say hello. Tommy likes to be with his parents. And this evening is a little special, for it's the day for Tommy to receive his allowance. Every week, Father comes home with money for Tommy and for Mother. Money Father earns by going out and working for his family. After supper, the kitchen looks very much as it did after breakfast. Do you know who will clean it up? Tommy knows that when he gets up tomorrow morning, everything will be done. So, good night, Father. Good night, Mother. Good night. Oops, almost forgot something very important. He'd better put the allowance money in his bank before he forgets. But say, that's not very much money. And there are shows to go to. And that superatomic airplane to send for. And, well, there are so many things a boy likes to have money for. Tommy's going downstairs. He's going to ask Father if he can't have a little more money every week. And Tommy will get to see what Mother and Father do after supper. Oh, they're doing those dirty dishes. And Mother is telling Father all about the things she did while he was at work. Just what did Mother do today? The first thing she did this morning was to fix up the kitchen. She cleared the table and washed the dishes and put the food away and made everything spick and span. Then she went up to Tommy's room to straighten it. There were train tracks and other toys to be picked up and put away. There was the bed to be made. There were clothes to be hung up, and some would need washing or mending. After that, Mother started on the ironing. Doing the family washing and ironing is a pretty hard job, but Mother does it regularly every week. And the cooking. Mother has to find time to make good, nourishing meals for the whole family every day. She knows Tommy's appetite is getting bigger and bigger. Later, she did the mending. Well, there's Tommy's cowboy shirt and his jacket. Tommy could be more careful with his clothes. Those are just some of the things that Mother has to do. No wonder she's often tired at the end of the day. It seems Mother never stops working for the family. And what about Father? What does he do all day? Well, he had a particularly hard job today. One he really didn't want to do. But he did it anyway, because that's the way Father earns money, by doing the job. You see, it is the time he gives, the work he does, that he gets money for. And this is the money the family has to pay for the home and food, and give Tommy his allowance, too. In a way, the money is Father's work. At home, before supper, Father worked on the family budget. It isn't easy to figure out how best to spend the money, because there are always so many bills to pay, and so many things the family wants to buy. After supper, Father repaired a broken chair. Fixing things instead of buying new ones is a good way to save money. Yes, sir, Father and Mother do a good job of working together, like a team. They do so many things for the whole family. And that's something Tommy hadn't thought about before. A team. That's what a family is. A family is a team that works together. And Tommy would like to be on that team. He thinks it's something like a football team. Yes, Tommy likes to play on a team. And he knows that to have a good game, you must all work together. And every member of the team must do his share. Now Tommy wants to do his share for the family team. One thing, he can save his money, not ask Father for more, and so help the family buy more things they all want. And starting right now, he can help Mother by putting things away. Yes, from now on, things are going to be different with Tommy. After a week or so of trying, Tommy was really working on the team. When a piece of train track was broken, Tommy fixed it himself. So Father didn't have to fix it, or spend money buying new track. Don't you think that's a good way to help your father, and show him how much you appreciate all he does for you? and see how neat Tommy's room is. Tommy's gotten in the habit of picking things up and putting them away, and it makes him proud when Mother doesn't have to do any work in his room. Isn't that a good way to help your mother and show her how much you appreciate all she does for you? And Tommy has thought of other things he can do for his parents. It's really more fun than work when you know you're helping your mother and father. Wouldn't you like to do things for your parents the way Tommy does? Then help to keep your room clean and neat. Keep your clothes on hangers. Try not to tear them or get them too dirty. Put things where they belong. Don't leave them on the floor when you're not using them. Help save money. Remember, someone has to work to earn it. Help your parents around the house. There are many jobs you can do that will make things easier for father and mother. Try to think up new ways you can help your family and ask your mother and father about them. They'll be glad that you want to do something that proves how much you love them and appreciate all the things they do for you. Your parents will appreciate your help, just as Tommy's father and mother do. And what's more, because Tommy has helped to save money, mother and father agree that he has earned a share of the money saved, a bigger allowance. That's mighty good. But what's better, Tommy knows he's a real member of his family team.
Shocking, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's not an unusual headline, but it is an unnecessary one. You say it couldn't happen to you. Well, you're right. It couldn't. That is, it couldn't happen to you if you follow the safety rules for babysitting. The babysitting business is booming. That means a lot of jobs for a lot of sitters. Teenage girls are traditional babysitters, and teenage boys, too, are finding babysitting a fine way to earn extra money and an excellent training for the future. But more than this, it's also a serious responsibility and requires serious preparation. If you receive a call from someone you don't know, ask their address and telephone number and tell them you will call back. Before accepting any assignment, make certain that you have adequate information. Don't accept employment without knowing who is offering it, where you will be sitting, and for how long. Before returning the call, check with the person who recommended you. If this is not possible, verify the name and address in the telephone directory. If it doesn't check out, call the police. You could be saving yourself an unpleasant experience and rendering an important service to your community or some babysitter who is not as careful. You might even be keeping a tragic headline from being printed. Once satisfied that the job is legitimate, it is wise to arrange a preliminary visit. It is good business to get acquainted with your employer. This meeting will give you an opportunity to fill out your babysitting information sheet, which is a must for every efficient babysitter. Be sure you have all the important telephone numbers, such as the police, the fire department, the number where the parents are, the doctor, and the neighbor who can be contacted in case of an emergency. After you have completed the worksheet, it is wise to get any special instructions the mother may have regarding the care of the child or children. Then reach a clear-cut understanding about incoming phone calls, the use of the radio and television, and whether or not you are permitted to have company. Regarding the latter, it is a good rule not to mix business with pleasure. Now that you know what is expected of you, have the employer show you how to lock any doors or windows that may be used. Also ask if a flashlight in good working order is available, or better still, have one of your own. It could prove invaluable. If possible, it is advisable to meet the children or child you may be sitting with. This will help you when you start your job, because you will not be a stranger to them. Before leaving your home, be sure to provide your parents with a written record of the name, address, and telephone number where you will be working. Ideally, the first time you sit for a new employer, it is wise to have your parent drive you. Then they will know exactly where you are. Let your parent know the approximate time you will be finished and what arrangements have been made for you to get home. It will be appreciated if you are a little early in case there are any last-minute instructions. Make sure you have your checkoff sheet and that it is correct. Recheck to see what neighbors are available in case of an emergency. Be sure you have the phone number where your employer will be. If a phone isn't available, ask them to call you at least once during the evening. Also ask them to please inform you if there is any change regarding the time they plan to return. When your employer leaves, make certain all the doors and windows are locked. If the children are allowed to stay up to play or watch television, stay with them. While it is possible that someone may dial a wrong number, do not hesitate to report any suspicious phone calls. A call can be considered to be suspicious if no one responds when you answer, or the caller will not properly identify himself or asks personal questions. Do not admit that you are alone. Report immediately to your police department any such calls or any unusual happenings or suspicious persons, such as someone peeping in the window or trying to gain entrance. Even if a person claims to be a friend of your employer, explain that you are responsible and that you are not authorized to admit anyone. If they wish to use the phone, ask them to please go elsewhere. Don't forget, the police department is ready and anxious to help if the need arises. Do not permit the children to play or linger in the bathroom. Make certain they do not touch bottles or other articles. Children have died because this precaution was not observed, and they had the opportunity to innocently drink some liquid or swallow some pills. Keep the bathroom door closed and they will be safe. Once the small children are safe in bed, it would seem you could relax, but it is important to remain alert and dependable at all times. Electrical outlets, sharp or heavy objects can be dangerous. In case of an accident, do not attempt anything more than the simplest first aid measures. If there is the slightest doubt in your mind, telephone the neighbor whose number you have been given. And if the condition is obviously serious, call the doctor immediately. Then telephone the parents. If you have been told you may prepare yourself a snack, be thoughtful and moderate. Don't raid the refrigerator. Fires sometimes start from faulty electrical wiring or other mechanical failure. If you smell smoke or see smoke or flame, don't panic, don't delay. Get the children out of the house immediately. Don't imperil your life or theirs by trying to put out the fire or stopping to telephone. Get out of the house as quickly as possible. Then notify the fire department using the neighbor's phone or the street alarm box.
For you to be asleep, Billy.
I'm not a bit.
To get up early tomorrow, remember?
Oh, I don't want to go to bed yet.
It's bedtime and sleep time. Now, put these things down. Now get under the covers and out with the lights.
Mom, I'm always awake for ages after the lights are out.
Oh, don't worry. You'll fall asleep right away. You'll be asleep. Good night, Billy.
Good night.
Billy's mother didn't know the real reason why he didn't want to go to bed. When he was left alone in the dark bedroom, Billy became frightened. He didn't understand about fear, that fear is a natural thing and nothing to be ashamed of, and that there's a way to go about getting over some fears. So he had never told his mother about it.
What is it, Billy? Why aren't you in bed? What's wrong, Billy? Is something the matter?
Mother.
Yes?
Is it all right if I leave the lights on just for tonight?
Oh, is that what's been bothering you?
I saw someone in the room, and I heard noises.
Well, noises always seem louder at night, and then we often imagine all sorts of things that aren't true. Tell me, Billy, are you often afraid like this?
Lots of nights.
Sure. You should never be ashamed of telling me when you're afraid of something. Fear is nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody's afraid of something or other. It's very natural. Do you remember what happened that Sunday morning? I was making breakfast. You and Dad were waiting so you could get outside to work on the lawn. Do you remember how the bacon fat poured over the stove and caught fire? I was terribly frightened. Your father was frightened, too. Then he remembered an old trick about putting out grease fires, and he quickly smothered the flame. We were all frightened of the fire. It was natural. Being afraid was nature's way of warning us that the fire was dangerous and might harm us. That's what fear is, a warning of danger. Sometimes we're afraid of big things, and sometimes we're afraid of very little ones. But you shouldn't be ashamed of being afraid of something dangerous. No matter whether it's big or little, being afraid is nature's way of reminding us that we should do something to avoid the danger, to avoid being harmed. Do you remember the time you threw the ball onto the ledge at school? Danny was angry at you for throwing the ball out of bounds and insisted that you get it down. He dared you to climb up the wall on the drain pipe, but it looked too dangerous to you, and you were afraid of losing your grip and falling. So you refused to climb up, even if it was a dare. And the janitor got the ball for you. You see, being afraid of climbing up the wall was your warning that it was very dangerous and that you might be hurt. You showed good common sense when you paid attention to that warning, and you don't have to be ashamed of it. Being afraid was nature's way of getting you to avoid something dangerous. But now there's something else about fear that I don't think you quite understand, Billy.
What's that?
Well, sometimes when you become afraid, there isn't anything that's really dangerous. Sometimes you think things are dangerous when they're not. Sometimes you and most other people grow afraid even when they know there's nothing dangerous. Can you think of anything like that, Billy?
I know. Kathy Lewis used to be afraid of dogs, even when they were friendly. She was so scared she'd cross the street when she saw one.
Well, that's a good example of exactly what I mean.
I found it out one day when I was playing with Scrappy. You know, Mr. Rogers' dog? He's friendly. He wouldn't even hurt a flea. I didn't know she was so fraidy cat. I called her to come over, but she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't come back even when I told her the dog wouldn't hurt her. She didn't have to be afraid of the dog. It wouldn't have hurt her. Isn't that what you mean, Mom?
That's just what I mean. And do you remember how afraid Keith Hogan was about learning to swim?
That's right. He was scared to go near the water.
Yes. Keith was afraid of something that wouldn't hurt him, too. And there's another kind of being afraid when there's no real danger. That's being afraid of what people might think, especially your parents. Do you remember a few months ago when Mrs. Campbell phoned me after dinner? Frank hadn't been seen since school. They were waiting dinner for him, and poor Mrs. Campbell didn't know what to think. Well, you know what happened. They found Frank down in the basement. His report card had some bad grades on it, and he was afraid of what his mother and father would think. Maybe even that they'd stop loving him. Of course, he found out that he shouldn't have been afraid, that his parents would go on loving him no matter what grades he made. So you can see what I mean when I say there was no real danger there. There are many things that people are afraid of when there's really no danger. Things like fear of being laughed at because their clothes are different or because their marks aren't as good as they might be. They're afraid for all sorts of foolish reasons.
But suppose you are afraid of something, like dogs or the dark. What can you do about it?
Well, each time you're afraid, try to understand whether there's really something to be afraid of. If you're afraid when there's real danger, you can learn ways of protecting yourself. Fear at the right time will make you careful. Fear and wise action, such as Dad took, or such as you took when you wouldn't climb up that wall, you can be proud, not ashamed of.
But how can you tell when there's a real danger or not?
Just stop and think. Common sense will often help. Then, too, try to remember or find out whether other people are afraid of the same things you are. For instance, Kathy could see that you were playing with the dog and that the dog didn't hurt you. She could know from that that there was nothing to be afraid of.
That's right.
So what Kathy needed to do was to try to understand why she was afraid of dogs. Maybe just getting to know some dogs would have helped her get over her fears.
That's what she did do, Mom. Her dad bought her a little puppy to play with. It was the cutest little thing. We all loved it, especially Kathy. That was last summer. The dog's big now. Kathy took good care of him. He got to know dogs so well that she isn't a bit afraid of them anymore. I guess that's what you mean by getting to know and understand the thing you're afraid of.
Yes. Keith got over his fear of the water by taking swimming lessons with a teacher he trusted and believed in.
Yeah, he can swim pretty well now.
There's another thing you can do to help yourself get over a fear when there's no real danger, and that's to talk about your fear with somebody.
Like we're doing now.
That's right. You could talk it over with your parents, a friend, your teacher, your doctor, someone you're fond of and trust. If Frank had only talked with his mother and father about his fear that they might stop loving him if his report card wasn't good, it would have been better for them all. Of course, his parents didn't realize he felt that way. Perhaps they expected too much of Frank. And it may sound funny, but Frank's grades were bad partly because of his fear of his parents. He was afraid he couldn't make good. Talking it over certainly made a big difference to the Campbells. It helped all of them understand each other better. As they talked over his work and work habits and what they expected of him, Frank got over his fear of making poor grades and of not doing well enough to please his father and mother. He's doing much better in school now, isn't he?
Yeah. Gee, Mom, it does help a lot to talk things over.
Billy, would you like to talk about some of the things that you're afraid of? Like why you don't like the room dark?
Well, I'm lonesome. And I'm afraid you and Dad aren't downstairs. That that maybe you've gone away.
You have my word that we'll never go away without telling you. And of course we'd never leave you alone. Either we or someone else will always be where you can call. How about it? Ready for sleep now?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, darling. Good night. What about the light, Billy?
Tell you what, Mom. Leave the door open a little instead, will you?
That's fair enough. Good night, son.
Do you think Billy will feel as alone as he did before? Do you think he'll stay awake as long as he used to? Does knowing that others are afraid of real dangers make it easier for Billy to stop worrying about his own fears? And when he remembers that some people are afraid when there's no real danger, does that make it easier for Billy to understand some of his own fears? Billy refused to climb the drain pipe because it looked dangerous. Yet at the same time, he had another fear. He was afraid he might be called a coward by his friends. He had to decide which was the real fear. Do you think he decided correctly? And do you think that the story of Frank's being afraid of what his parents might think helped Billy understand his own fears better? Did it help Billy to talk over his fears with his mother? What do you think?
Be seated, boys and girls. It's my pleasure at this time to present to you Captain Mulrooney of the Police Department. Captain Mulrooney.
Thank you. I have a very pleasant task this morning, and that is to recognize and award some good citizens in our community. Those good citizens are the members of your school safety patrol, who have done such an outstanding job promoting safety in our community. And first of all, I want to recognize a boy who has demonstrated such real qualities of leadership that he has been appointed captain of your patrol, David Lane.
Guess this is just about the finest thing that can happen to anybody my age. Captain of the School Safety Patrol. And happening to me, David Lane, a police officer pinning a captain's badge on me in front of the whole school. Our principal, Mr. Williams, watching, and our patrol supervisor. She was the first girl captain of her school safety patrol. And there's Sally, clapping like crazy. Sally's my kid sister. She's 6, a first grader. And there's Mom, too.
To become a member of your school safety patrol is a real honor. All these young people have shown qualities of leadership. They are liked and respected by their classmates. Their teachers and school officials feel they can depend on them. Being chosen as an officer is an added honor and means important responsibilities.
Imagine being captain of such a great bunch of fellas and girls. Seems no time since the safety patrol had to keep an eye open for me when I started to school. Safety patrol work is important. That's why we have to learn to do it right. Our school follows the Safety Patrol Handbook put out by the American Automobile Association. It tells all about how to organize and supervise a school safety patrol. This is what people see of safety patrol work. Patrol members at their posts helping other students cross streets safely on their way to school and back home. But I'll bet most folks don't realize how carefully every move is planned. The patrol member takes his post 15 to 30 minutes before school starts, wearing his white belt and badge. He stands on the sidewalk, one full step back from the curb, facing the middle of the crosswalk on the side of the street children are coming from. He faces the street, watching for cars or trucks or buses coming from any direction. He looks back every now and then to see how close children are getting. As they come near the corner, he puts out his arms, sloping down. That reminds them to stop and wait. Sometimes it's stronger than reminding, like when one of the little kids forgets to look ahead and has to be stopped from running right into the street. When the patrol member sees there's a safe gap in motor traffic, no cars or trucks coming within a block, he drops his arms and moves to the side, still watching out for cars in all directions. He signals for the group to cross. See how he extends one arm out and motions with the other? Then he moves back to a position facing the middle of the crosswalk, back from the curb, ready for the next group. See? The patrol stays on the sidewalk. There's just one time when he may step off the curb. If cars are parked so he can't see around them from the sidewalk, he may take 3 steps off the curb, no more, to where he can see up and down the street. His schoolmates stay on the sidewalk. When he sees it's safe, he motions the group to cross. And goes back to his post on the sidewalk. At our school, we learn how to do these things right. We have regular meetings of the safety patrol. The patrol supervisor is there and our police officer. They show us correct things to do in our patrol work. They give us a chance to practice them, and we talk about any problems we might have at our posts.
Your post is on the sidewalk, never in the street. So you stay on your post on the sidewalk. You step into the street only to see around a parked car or truck, and never more than 3 steps. Then get back to the sidewalk at once. Your first duty is to remind students of the safe crossing practices that we all learn at school. Stay at least 1 step back from the curb, facing the middle of the crosswalk on the side of the street from which students are coming. On this side when they're headed toward school, and across over here when they're leaving school. And remember, be at your post on time. That's 15 minutes before school opens and 15 minutes before school closes, wearing your patrol belt. And above all, remember, you are not policemen. You do not try to stop or control cars on the street. Only the police or adult crossing guards have that authority.
Maybe you noticed we keep talking about reminding the students. Everyone in our school starts right out from their first days in school, learning how to cross streets carefully, how to work with the safety patrol, and how to cross cautiously where there aren't patrols. We get a lot of help from posters, too, like this one, "Watch Turning Cars." We make maps of the way we usually come to school and go home. That's how we decide where we need patrol posts, the crossings that most of us use. The police officer and our patrol supervisor work with us patrol members setting up posts, and the police department checks them over. They know where auto traffic's heaviest. Of course, we have to have posts right around the school. But some busy intersections farther away must be used by school children. They need patrol posts just as much as the ones near school. We sort of fit the patrol posts to the kind of crossing. One patrol member can handle an intersection with light traffic, like this one. But at a T intersection, we have to set up 2 or more posts because children will be crossing 2 streets. At school closing time, posts are moved across to opposite sides to take care of the children on the way home from school. Usually on one-way streets, we cross on the side where traffic's coming from because there are no turning cars to watch. Some big new streets are so wide that they're really 2 streets. We put one post at the curb and another one on the island. The patrol member on the curb has to be careful not to let more children pass his post than the island will hold. At some corners, where traffic's always heavy, there are stop signs that help a lot. Other corners have traffic lights. The patrol posted here has to be careful not to let students start on a green light too late to permit them to walk across before the light changes to amber or red. At some crossings, where traffic is very heavy, we work with adult crossing guards or police officers on duty during the going to school and going home times. They control the street traffic and give us the signal to let students cross. Patrol members are picked from our school's upper grades. We've had more practice crossing with patrols, and some of us have been substitute patrol members. We apply for membership, fill out a form. The teachers and our patrol supervisor go over the applications, sometimes with the patrol, kind of like grading. They try to pick the members who have good records in school for schoolwork and conduct. They have to be dependable and also get along with the other kids. Troublemakers, bullies, and show-offs are out. We always have more volunteers than we really need. We have to have our folks' approval. My mom was glad to sign mine. She and Dad say the school safety patrol sure relieved their minds when I started school. And maybe I can help now with Sally. All our parents like to see patrols operating correctly. They're glad we don't go into streets and are not allowed to direct cars. The patrol supervisor and my 3 lieutenants helped me as captain to assign each post to a patrol member. And we've given each one of them special instructions about their special corners. My lieutenants will help me inspect the posts regularly, and they'll help me keep a daily record of what patrol members are absent or tardy, don't wear proper uniform, or keep it clean, or neglect their posts. And we assign substitute patrol members to fill in for regulars who are absent. You see, there's a lot more to safety patrol work than it looks like at first, but it's worth every bit of the work.
The School Safety Patrol Program, pioneered nearly 40 years ago by the American Automobile Association, has played an important part in helping establish one of the finest safety records in America. School safety patrols, by helping their classmates develop safe crossing habits, have probably saved thousands of lives and prevented many thousands more of crippling injuries. Today, more than 33,000 elementary schools in America have school safety patrol programs. You can be mighty sure that every one of those communities is glad and proud to have such a program. As a police officer, I am sure that your teachers, your parents, and your fellow citizens in all the civic and service clubs in those communities would like to join me and salute all the school safety patrol members in America doing this important job.
Imagine me on the safety patrol and Captain with a police officer saluting safety patrols right in front of everyone. What a safety patrol this school's gonna have.
I am the morning toothbrush.
And I am the evening toothbrush.
I hope Judy will brush her teeth before she leaves for school.
Here she comes now.
Judy has beautiful, clean teeth. I hope nothing happens to them.
Oh, I do, too. But think of the boys and girls we saw in Dr. Jones' office before he gave us to Judy. Surely, you remember that little boy. Don't you remember that little boy who came in with one of his big back teeth broken? He told Dr. Jones he had cracked a nut with his teeth. And then there was that little girl who came in to see Dr. Jones. One of her front teeth had been broken. This was caused by children being forgetful and careless and not helping one another keep safety rules.
Does Judy know safety rules?
She should. She was with that committee of children from Pleasant School who came to see Dr. Jones. That was the first time we ever saw Judy. The committee brought their health and safety book to show him. I think I remember every page and lesson it taught. Health and safety. Pleasant School. Care of mouth and teeth. Brush your teeth 2 times each day. After breakfast and before going to bed.
Judy did brush her teeth after breakfast this morning.
I hope she'll remember to brush them tonight.
Use 2 toothbrushes, one in the morning, the other at night. One in the morning,
the other at night, and you will always have a dry, firm brush. See your dentist 2 times each year.
Go to your dentist at the beginning of summer vacation, so he will have plenty of time to take good care of your teeth.
And go to your dentist again during the winter months. Have your dentist help you keep clean and healthy teeth.
Think and be safe. Stand away from the swings when someone is swinging.
And staying behind the white line means safety for those who watch and wait for their turn.
Think and be safe. Stand clear of the batter when watching baseball.
The big boys on the safety committee at school can use the liner to show boys and girls where to stand when watching a game.
Crack! A home run! But no one is hurt.
That's it. Help one another. Think and be safe. Get in line and take your turn at the drinking fountain.
When children take turns and are careful, no one is hurt.
Never put such things as money and marbles In your mouth.
Money is not clean. Put it in your bank. Never in your mouth. Marbles are not clean. Keep them in a bag when you are not playing with them.
Uh-oh, little boy, don't run with that sucker in your mouth. Oh, I'm glad you did that.
Never crack nuts with your teeth. Use a real nut cracker. Or, if you are outdoors, you can use a rock, like this.
And finally, keep smiling. Dr. Jones said that was a fine idea.
Did those children take Dr. Jones's time just to show him that book?
Oh, no, indeed. They really came to find out about the best way to brush their teeth. Dr. Jones had his nurse show them how.
That's right. I remember the nurse telling the children they must wash their hands before brushing their teeth. If you use powder to clean your teeth, she said, sprinkle a little in your hand and then dip your wet brush in it.
And if you use toothpaste, put the paste on your dry brush.
Here's the way to brush your gums and teeth. Place your brush against the gums and brush towards the biting edge of the teeth. Always brush away from the gums. On upper teeth, always brush down. Go all around the jaw, outside and inside, like this. Do the same thing on your lower teeth. Remember, brush away from the gums. Always brush up on your lower teeth. Go clear around, outside, and inside, like this. To clean the biting parts of the teeth, press the brush against them and brush back and forth in a little circle, like this. Do this to all your double teeth, lower and upper. Look closely, and you can see how the brush goes over both the gums and the teeth. Remember, gums must be brushed too, to keep them clean and healthy. And remember how to brush the biting parts of your teeth.
Oh, that was a fine lesson. I wonder if Judy will remember all those things.
We'll see.
I am proud of Judy. She did remember everything.
Right. Well, good night now. I'm going to sleep so that I can dream of Judy's smile.
Officer Krause, boys and girls. He has some very important things to tell you. I hope you'll listen to him and remember what he says.
Hi, kids. You've probably all heard stories about boys and girls who got into trouble, how they went off with strangers and their families never saw them again. I'm sure your parents and teachers have told you never to talk to strangers. But sometimes kids forget, and some kids think they know it all, that nothing could ever happen to them. Well, let's see. I'm going to tell you how some other boys and girls got mixed up with strangers, so we can be sure it never happens to us. Remember the story about little Debbie Vincent?
Hi there, little lady. My goodness, you're all alone. Wouldn't you like to go for a ride with me? I'll buy you some ice cream.
Well, nobody saw her again. It was on the TV news.
And now, turning to the local scene, the search continues for little Debbie Vincent, missing since yesterday morning. So far, there are no clues to her disappearance. Police speculate that she must have forgotten her parents' warnings and perhaps gone off with someone in a car. No witness has been located who can give any description or license number that might help in tracking down the vehicle.
Debbie forgot what her parents had told her about strangers. And see what happened? Now let's look at some of the ways that we might run into trouble. It's not very smart to play in lonely places like this.
Hi, either of you guys collect baseball cards?
Yeah, I do.
Here, they're yours.
Wow, thanks.
I got some more. I live pretty close. You want them?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
We can only hope that he doesn't have to learn the hard way that his parents were right when they told him that strangers can be dangerous. A movie theater is a friendly place. What if somebody says hello to you or smiles? Well, that's probably all right. Most everybody likes kids. But this man followed the girl into the theater. He isn't just an ordinary stranger who likes kids. You should never let a stranger put his arm around you or touch you. This girl is doing exactly the right thing, just what her parents had told her to. She changed her seat. But the man followed her again. All she can do now is to get the manager or the usher.
There he is. That's the man.
Just remember what you've been told about strangers, and it's easy to stay out of trouble. For instance, in a place like this park.
Hi there. Want some candy?
That's good.
I've got 2 full bags in the car you can take home. Come on.
This girl's mother had told her never to take candy from strangers. Well, she forgot, but her brother didn't.
Hey, let go of my sister!
The man was afraid the boy's shouts might attract attention.
Hi, Sally.
Do I know you?
I'm a friend of your mother's. She wants me to take you home.
Oh, okay. See you guys later.
Of course, Sally had been told never to get into a car with a stranger, but she forgot, too. It was only because her friend here wrote down the license number that Sally ever got home. Well, we've seen some dumb stunts so far, haven't we? But this is the dumbest of all, hitchhiking. driver doesn't mean any harm, and you're just plain lucky if he doesn't. He may be a reckless driver, or a speeder. His car might have bad brakes. The hitchhiker has no way of knowing. He just goes right along anyway. Well, these kids ask for trouble, and they're going to get it.
Let me go! Hey!
But one of the boys kept his head. He wrote down the license number of the car.
Hey, look, there's a blue car!
I can't help thinking that if they hadn't been hitchhiking, this wouldn't have happened at all. But that doesn't help much now, does it?
White four-door sedan, license number 359 Adam Ocean X-Ray.
Just remember, whether you're a boy or a girl, that could be you in that car, if you hitch rides. This girl has had a narrow escape. What might have happened if her friend hadn't remembered to write down the license number? Well, boys and girls, what have we learned? Have these stories taught us anything? First, we've learned never to accept gifts from strangers. Nothing at all, not even candy. It's really very easy to say, no thank you. And you never go anywhere with a stranger. Next, you should never let a stranger put his arm around you or touch you. And no matter what story a stranger may tell you, you never get into his car. Don't forget, hitchhiking is asking for a ride with a stranger, and that's really asking for trouble. If we remember to write down the license number of any car we're suspicious of, it might turn out to be very important. These are mostly things your parents and teachers have already told you. They know what they're talking about when they tell you that strangers can be dangerous, and that's the most important thing I wanted to tell you too. If you all remember that, it'll be pretty hard to get into trouble. Well, kids, any questions?